The Louisiana Derby winner looks to keep the momentum going.
Trust the Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
Welcome to the Spotlight series here on Trust the Profits, where we take a closer look at Kentucky Derby contenders. This spotlight features Catching Freedom, and I'm here with my friend Sean Patrick Nolan to discuss the horse's background, and we'll give you our thoughts on his chances of the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. How you doing today, Sean? And I'm looking forward to talking to you about Catching Freedom today.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited, but this is definitely a very promising 3-year-old. I know you and I both have a nice future bet on this horse, so we were very high on him from day one, and I think he's just progressing forward. So I'm excited to talk about him with you and be here with you.
I appreciate you joining me. That's right, folks. Me and Sean have a Kentucky Derby future bet, so got the money on the line. It's always fun to follow along with the future bet, and it's come to fruition here with the first Saturday in May. So I look forward to talking to you about Catching Freedom, and let's take a look at Catching Freedom a little bit closer for you.
Sure.
So this is the Derby Spotlight. This is the Catching Freedom, the Louisiana Derby winner. We're going to discuss his chances. Let's go into a little bit of a background with the pedigree here for you.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's look here further. We got Catching Freedom is by Constitution out of a mare called Catch My Drift by
Yeah.
Pioneer of the Nile. It's a catchy name. They actually covered, Constitution and Catch My Drift. So Catching Freedom is a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool name there. And we got a lot of history here. We actually have, as I mentioned, Pioneer of the Nile, and we got Tapit on the other side. So, with Tapit, we could, the distance won't be an issue there. Does
Yeah.
anything jump off the page here for you with the pedigree, the
Yeah, well, you
pedigree
got
chart?
Tappan, who's got Unbridled. You got Pioneer of the Nile, who's got American Pharaoh. So right there,
Mm.
you know that the mile quarter should not be a problem for this youngster. And just even going back, you got some very interesting Tap Your Heels, who happens to be Rubiano's mom. So you have a lot of Pulpit. I mean, look, Empire Maker, mile and a
That's right.
half, no problem for him. Look, you just go back and you see a lot of distance in this. A mile and a quarter will not be a problem for this horse at all.
I love it. Yeah, that's really what jumped out to me too. The distance, I really think, and we've seen it in his runs. We'll get into that. It's that it's kind of, he's like an engine that keeps on going, and you could just point him even out to the outside. He just keeps going. So I really look forward to his chances here for the
Yeah,
Kentucky Derby. So Catching Freedom is owned by the Allback family stables and is
yeah,
trained by Brad Cox and will be ridden by Flavian Pratt. Now I know that there's been a few different jockeys on this horse, but it looks like it's been settled now on Flavian. Looks like Luis Saez will be on Door Knock. So
yes.
we got a couple musical chairs there, they say, but things it looks like they finally got settled out. And what do you think of Flavian here on Catching Freedom?
I love it. I actually got the chance when I was down in Keeneland to talk to Flavian for a little bit, and he's very excited about this horse. Love the way he ran in the Louisiana Derby. He's a very patient rider, which is what you need in the Kentucky Derby. There's 20
Mm.
horses. You can't panic. You can't. And Flavian is just the absolute example of patience. That's why he does so well at Saratoga. All the aggressive riders, he just waits his time, waits his moment, and just strikes. And that's what you need. And that he's the perfect rider for this horse. He and Brad Cox do very well together, right? We all know that he's been the last 2-3 years, the perennial leader in the Triple Crown races.
Yep.
He just wins, and he's the perfect jockey to have, especially in this field. Obviously, a post position could be crucial, but I think he can put this horse anywhere.
I totally agree. I think Flavian fits this horse like a glove. I think it's
Yep.
patient rider. Good point, Sean. You really need that in the Derby. You don't want to press the button too soon, they
Nope.
say, and then kind of panic and get into a tight spot. So I really like the fit there. And what's interesting is that Catching Freedom, 5 career starts. I actually consider that kind of lightly raced a little bit for the
Yes,
Kentucky Derby,
very much
right?
so.
Good. Yeah, so lightly raced, has already earned near $900,000, and he's a winner of 3 out of 5 races. So we'll discuss those races a little further here. So let's look at that here. We're going to pull up the
Sure.
races here. Got Catching Freedom wins at his debut at Churchill in a
Yeah.
maiden special weight race. Now I know that's obviously the much lower level. Has a win over the track, and then moves up to this allowance optional claiming condition. Finishes fourth. So a second start, maybe still learning right there.
Yeah, that
And
was a
then
tough start too.
yeah,
Yeah, but he was definitely learning, which is important. Yep.
very good. And then the third start is the one that we really want to talk about here is the Oaklawn Smarty Jones
Yep.
Stakes. Really, this horse kind of came on my radar at that point. What about you, Sean? You remember this race too?
Oh yes, very impressive. Very impressive. Just the way he just took over the turn and just powerful home. And I just love the stride on this horse. And if it does get muddy, I mean that's not going to hurt him at all. It's like I think he's going to be obviously pioneer of the Nile and Pharaoh. We know how much Pharaoh loved the mud and Oaklawn. So this horse, perfect for what exactly in that race. That's where he definitely caught my eye in that day, and he's kept continuing to move on since.
Yeah, it was something that caught my eye too. This horse was patiently ridden inside of horses and kind of was stuck towards the rail. A lot of
Right.
traffic. We see a lot of actually Derby contenders from that race, like Just Steel was in there. And then this horse was angled out. Catching Freedom was angled out 4 or 5 wide, just kind of swooped the field. Thought it was an impressive run. I thought there was actually more there to give, and picking up 10 Derby points early on in the season, which was important to kind of set the tone. That was Christian Torres aboard that day,
Yes, it
and I
was.
thought it was a
Yeah,
great ride.
Christian, great ride and a fabulous young rider for anyone out there. Watch out for Christian Torres. He's going to be in the Derby very soon on a regular basis.
I love it. So that's a great win there in the Smarty Jones Stakes. And then is pointed to the fairgrounds Risen Star. Now we know that this race has become very important stepping stone for the Kentucky Derby here. The Risen Star, Sierra Leone was the winner of this race, and I know we've kind of discussed this a little bit off camera, Shaw. This was a little bit of a trouble trip, muddy track. What were your thoughts on the Risen Star performance?
There is not a doubt in my mind. Okay, I'm very also high on resilience in the Derby. He keeps getting better and better.
Yep.
There is no doubt in my mind that if resilience doesn't bump um, uh, Chasing Freedom and knock him completely off stride, right? And there's no doubt that he's right there at the finish with both Sierra Leone and that race I think was his to win, and resilience really knocked him off stride, and Louis was still able to get him back on stride, to finish third, but it was too late. He'd already been bumped too far out. But I definitely think in that race, if he doesn't get bumped by resilience, he's in the winner's circle, not even Sierra Leone. So I was very high on that horse, especially after that race, especially coming into Louisiana Derby.
I totally agree. I thought, it came up a, strong field, obviously, and then trouble trip, muddy track, and what the horse didn't seem like, Catching Freedom didn't seem like he was slowing down.
Not at
That's
all.
a
Not
great
at all.
feature that I
Nope.
like about this horse. He's like a train that keeps on going no matter what. So
He's got
I thought
different
it was a good
gears.
effort
He's got different gears, which is really important in a big race with 20 horses. If you can have that versatility.
for sure. You're going to need it with that big field
Yeah.
and positioning. So very good. And then we have the latest race was the biggest win of the career. It was the Louisiana Derby Grade 2. So let's take a look
Yeah.
at that photo here. This was with Flavian aboard. I really thought that this was a really telling race. Now, before the race, the number 3 horse was fractious in the gate and caused a chain reaction. they looked at the horse. The horse was able to run, go back into the gate. But Catching Freedom was a little rattled by that, I thought. It was
Yeah.
actually a little dicey at one moment, almost didn't sit in the stall, but almost kind of was a little fractious himself. And Catching Freedom broke slow and kind of got shuffled and it was last. So, what were your thoughts on this Louisiana Derby? It was actually that Patience by Flavian Pratt. I thought that was in play as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're giving me bad memories here because that was Antiquarian who was actually the one who
Yep.
went through the gate, unfortunately. But
Yep.
but he's doing great, and he'll be in the Peter Pan. So hopefully, we'll see him in the Belmont. But going back to this race, yeah, even Brad Cox, after that race, you could kind of see him exhale. He had to move around the
Right.
entire field, and nobody that day was really making that big a move, which shows how big of a talent this horse could be. And he just came storming down the middle, and I really was like, wow. But again, the beginning not great. Flavian did not panic. Let him settle. Let him get into his stride. Didn't even flinch, and then just when it came time, pushed the button and the horse responded. That's the jockey type you want, especially at the Derby when you have 20 horses. If you have to go around the field, patient jockey, patient horse, that's what you want. And I was
That's
really
it.
sold on him that day.
Me too. I totally agree, Sean. It was sold on the combo of the jockey with the connections there with the horse. Thought it was interesting too. So I thought it was a really brilliant win. Going widest. I mean, it looked like it was almost he was almost in the parking lot there, and then Anna Marie was right next to him battling, and
Yes,
won by a length and a half there. What's interesting to me about this sequence with the timing of these races is that Catching Freedom is getting. I know it's not that big of a deal for some people, but he's getting extra rest compared to a lot of his rivals. This
right.
race, Fierceness raced, I believe, after this, and then Sierra Leone was in the bluegrass. So I know it's he had over a month now to recover from this race. Do you think that's a big deal as well
Yeah.
with a little extra rest?
Anybody that knows Brad Cox knows that his system, he loves 5 weeks between races. If
Yep.
every one of his horses in the ideal situation scenario could have 5 weeks or more in between starts, he'd be a happy camper, right? And this is exactly what Brad Cox does with his horses. Gives them time, gets them stronger, lets them kind of relax a little bit, get back on their feet, and then make them stronger. And this is the perfect move. This is the ideal. That's why a lot of people were asking me about Encino, not to be quick, but the
Mm,
Lexington was 4 weeks. I don't think Brad Cox wants to bring him back on 4 weeks because that's not his program. I mean,
yep.
obviously the owners could make him do it. It's their call, but that's just not the type of horse he likes to run on so the 5 weeks. He's had more than 5 weeks. He's going to be rested. He's going to be strong, and he's going to be ready for a big performance.
I agree. I think it's going to be a big performance. I really think that this horse has a huge chance to win and at least be in the trifecta mix. So
Oh,
what do you
absolutely.
think? Yeah, what do you think, Sean? What do you think needs to actually happen for Catching Freedom to win the Kentucky Derby? I know it's, you got to need luck, you got to need talent, you're going to need a
Right.
trip, you're going to need a lot of
Yeah.
factors. Is
Yeah.
there a few factors that kind of jump out to you to say, hey, this needs to happen for this horse, or is he not really that kind
Yeah,
of horse?
yeah. I don't think they can be going slow. I don't think they're going to be going slow up front. You know what I'm saying? He
Right.
he can settle in almost any position. He's won near, he's won far. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, as you said, racing luck has to be. He has to have a path. You know what I'm saying? Louis can't get him too like clogged up in the like in the middle or on the rail. That's not that's not the desired. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
Louis, I mean, but Flavian, excuse me,
Right.
Flavian. What do you call it? Can't get a but Flavian is the master at keeping his horses. He and Johnny Velasquez, if you look at all the trips Johnny Velasquez has had in his career, and I call him the GOAT, look how many horses he gets in trouble. You could count on maybe one hand, two hands, like in the Triple Crown. They're always in the right position. Flavian will find a way to get the best position for him, but a little speed up front will not hurt at all coming
I
down the
agree.
lane. He'll be right there.
I totally agree. I think it's the jockey fits perfect. I think
Perfect.
Flavian will actually put Catching Freedom in a position to win. That's something
Right.
that hopefully he gets that chance, because I think
Yep.
he's that good, this horse. Really do, and he's improving. Now, there's been talk about speed figures a little on the lower side compared
Yeah.
to the other rivals, and the time. I actually watched it on the main telecast, and the broadcasters right away were like, this time I'm not sure if this is going to be a substantial usable time for the Derby. I just think that I'm not as huge of a time guy. Actually, I'm more of like a visionary with the trip, and
Sure.
what
Yeah.
I saw was dominance. I really think that he covered the most ground, and Anna Marie obviously has a look too. Was right next with him, but what are
Right.
your thoughts on that? Maybe a little bit, with the speed figures and everything, or
Yeah, I think there's merit to it. I mean, some merit to it. Like I've always said, right? And speed figures, yeah. And if the figures, if everyone runs their A race, fierceness is going to be very hard to catch. I mean, if he runs his A race, because he's got just the figures that even Sierra Leone is like 6 lengths behind him on figures. You know what I'm saying? Like in
yep.
terms of the speed. So he's definitely going to have to step it up a bit. You know what I mean? For him to be in serious win contention, he can definitely be in the money, no doubt. But to win, yeah, he's got to step it up a couple of figures. But that's the type of horse where Brad is just waiting for the big race with the big rider, and that can make all the difference in these 3-year-old races.
I totally agree. I mean, Brad Cox he's been waiting for this moment to actually have a horse cross the line in the Kentucky
Yeah,
Derby. So
actually first, right? Yeah, is that
this
right?
is it. So I've been actually on with the Brad Cox horses a couple years now. I really think
Yeah,
it's his barn is getting very close to it. This was a horse that's been on my radar since January in the Smarty Jones. Actually watched it live, and I just thought, wow, this horse. I know that he's a little erratic sometimes, maybe kind of switching leads, but I thought in the Louisiana Derby, I thought he was under control more because he was pointed out wide,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
going to be interesting, the trip. I'm really looking forward to it. Any final thoughts on Catching Freedom? How do you think you're going to use them on any tickets at all?
I'm definitely going to use him across for sure. I think we're going to get like 5, 6 to 1, which is incredible value on, you know what I'm saying? But I will definitely use him in exacta and trifecta wagering. I'm not a big superfecta fan. I have a hard enough time with 2 or 3, but
Oh, even on Derby Day?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
On Derby Day.
Yeah.
But obviously I will be using him in exactas and trifectas. He's a must use. I think he'll be right there. I think as I did say, he does need to step up a tad but they're capable of doing that as 3-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? So he has it. He has the right rider, the right trainer who knows how to get him ready for the big race. He's coming in mega fresh.
I like that.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's a must use for anybody. I'm not saying that because we have a future bet on him. I'm saying that honestly, this is just the type of race that Brad Cox comes up to, very much like Mandaloon.
Yeah.
Exactly the way he
He
brought
ran
him
a
up.
huge race
Yep.
in the Derby, Mandaloon.
Yep.
So, and
Hmm.
he was, I believe, high 20 to 1 at that time.
Yeah,
So
but he had him perfect for the right time. He knows how to get him right for the big race.
I'm telling you, don't sleep on that extra rest there for Catching Freedom. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna be, betting him pretty big. I mean, I got a couple other horses may use around him, but I've
sure.
been big on Catching Freedom since January. I think that he's gonna have no problem getting the distance with the pedigree, and love the jockey fit now with Flavian and Brad Cox, obviously one of the top trainers. So let us know who you like in the comments, or
Yeah, let us
what do
know.
you
Yeah,
think of Catching
absolutely. Yep.
Freedom. Appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate you coming on, Sean, as well.
Always
And
a pleasure, my man. You do great stuff, my man. Always glad to join you.
thank you so much for the support, everybody. And good luck. First Saturday in May, 150th
One
running of
week
the
away. Can't
Kentucky
wait, my
Derby.
man. Can't wait.
And the post draws soon, too. So
Yes.
we record this a day or two before, but let's get these winning bets in, everybody. Keep cashing.